All right, question 2 on GRE practice test 1. We're told that runner A ran 4/5 of a kilometer and runner B ran 800 meters, and we're supposed to figure out which is bigger, the distance that A ran or the distance that B ran. In other words, which is more, 4/5 of a kilometer or 800 meters? Well, I don't know, maybe if you're European, you might be able to look at these and immediately tell that they're the same. Turns out that they are. Our answer is going to end up being C. But more likely, you can't tell that they're the same because the units differ. The unit given for runner A is kilometers, and the unit given for runner B is meters. Hopefully you know that 1,000 meters is equal to 1 kilometer. Otherwise, I don't know how you could do this problem. One way to remember that is the prefix kilo, kind of means 1,000. Other prefixes that might be useful in this test are milli, which means 1/1000th, and centi, which means 1/100th. There's others, but I doubt you'd need to know any others for this test. Anyways, assuming that you know that 1,000 meters equals 1 kilometer, what we need to do to compare these two distances is either change kilometers into meters or change meters into kilometers. I'll do it both ways, although what we'll see is it's a little bit smarter to change kilometers to meters, so maybe I do that first. In short, the way to convert kilometers to meters is just multiply by 1,000, but I think showing more steps might be useful. Since our goal isn't really to solve this problem, but is to teach you everything that you'd need to solve a different problem, and conversions can be much more challenging than what you see in this specific example. So a method that will always work for conversions is what I think of as just multiplying by 1. So what I'm saying is we're going to start out with 4/5 of a kilometer. And when I write the unit, I'm going to write the unit divided by 1. And I'll explain why in just a second. The way this is written, it kind of looks like I'm taking 4/5 and multiplying it by kilometers over 1, which I'm not really doing, but I'm purposefully trying to use that notation because the math that we'll end up doing will kind of work like multiplication. I know that's not making a lot of sense now, but stick with me. What I want to do is figure out what this is equal to in meters. And again, I'll write the unit divided by 1. Well, since I'm writing that these two things are equal, I can't go multiplying this amount by like 2 or 3 or something, or they'll no longer be equal. So all I can do is multiply the left side of the equation by the number 1. Because when you multiply by 1, you don't change the value of something. So importantly, the thing that I'm going to end up writing right here must be equal to 1. That thing that I'm going to end up writing here that's equal to 1 is going to end up being a fraction. So think about, when is a fraction equal to 1? Well, like 5/5 is equal to 1, or 3/3 is equal to 1. A fraction is equal to 1 when the numerator is equal to the denominator. So I have to write something here where the top is the exact same as the bottom. So you're like, what are you going to write? 3/3 or 5/5 or 10/10? I'm not going to write any of those things because my goal is to switch the unit from kilometers to meters. So what that means is I'm going to need a kilometer down on the bottom here to cancel out with this kilometer so that what I'm left with over on this side doesn't have a kilometer anymore. But what I'm left with over on this side must have meters up on the top. So I'm going to need a meter right here so that when I get rid of my kilometers, I'm left with meters, which is what I want to end up with. What I'm saying is I want to write a fraction right here that's equal to 1, where the top is expressed in meters and the bottom is expressed in kilometers. Well, since I know that 1,000 meters equals 1 kilometer, I can write 1,000 meters and 1 kilometer. And all I'm really doing is multiplying this thing by 1, which again is really important. When you multiply by 1, you don't change the value of that quantity, which is why I can put an equal sign right here. The left side is equal to the right side, but what we'll see in a minute is that the right side is going to be expressed in meters. Since I just have a bunch of multiplication going on, I can now cancel stuff out. This kilometer, loosely speaking, cancels with this kilometer. There's one on the top and one on the bottom. When I'm multiplying fractions, I multiply straight across. So 4 times 1,000 gives me 4,000. And 5 times 1 gives me 5. The kilometers canceled, the meter did not, so I have this meter over here. What I'm saying is 4/5 kilometers is equal to 4,000 divided by 5 meters. But 4,000 divided by 5, as you can confirm with the calculator, is just equal to 800. So 4/5 kilometers must be the same as 800 meters. Person A ran the exact same distance as person B. The answer to this question is C. I know this probably feels like overkill for this specific problem, but I think this method of conversion can be really helpful on harder problems. Start out with whatever you want to convert from, writing your unit up on the top, and then multiply that by something that is equal to 1, meaning the top of the fraction is the exact same as the bottom of the fraction, But importantly, the unit in the bottom of the fraction will be whatever your original unit was, so that those cancel out, and the unit in the top of the fraction will be the unit that you want to end up with. Multiply straight across, what you'll be left with is something equal to the original quantity, but expressed in the new unit. 4/5 kilometers equals 800 meters. In case you didn't follow that, we can do it again in the other direction. Say you started out with 800 meters, it might help to write that as 800 over 1. My unit is meters, which again I'll write as m over 1. I want to multiply that by something that's equal to 1, and I want to end up with kilometers, which I'm going to write as kilometers over 1 as my unit. How do I do that? Well, if I'm multiplying by 1, and I want to end up with kilometers, kilometers has to go on the top. If I want to get rid of meters, meters must go down on the bottom. This fraction has to be equal to 1, otherwise these two quantities aren't equal. 1 kilometer is the same as 1,000 meters. Canceling and multiplying, this meter, loosely speaking, cancels with this meter. I can cancel 100 from this 800 with 100 from this. And what I'm left with is 8 kilometers up on the top and a 10 down on the bottom. In other words, 8/10 of a kilometer. In other words, 4/5 of a kilometer. 800 meters is the exact same as 4/5 kilometers. The answer is C.